Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seventh Man podcast. I'm Will Beverina. I run Dimer2K.com and write about the NBA 2K League.
I am Josiah Cohn, and I guess I write for Dimer2K.com, covering the NBA 2K League, also a little bit for TSN.ca.
We're back for episode 15. You can check out all of our previous episodes on our YouTube channel. Just search for the Seventh Man podcast. And we have the past few episodes on iTunes and Podbean as well. As always, we want to thank everyone who has listened to any of the episodes so far. The support is always appreciated. So we're doing something a bit different today. Usually Josiah and I come on here and we just kind of ramble for a good 45 minutes about the league and whatever has recently happened. But today we have a Seventh Man podcast first, a special guest. And we are pleased to introduce Eli Wade, co-founder of 2K Analytics. How are you doing, Eli?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. And I've listened to all your shows. Obviously big fan of the 2K League. So getting on this podcast was something I really wanted to do.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. 2K Analytics is, as you can imagine, an analytics and scouting company founded by Eli and two others, Connor and Max, who, just by the way, was recently hired as team manager for T-Wolves Gaming. They've been providing the community with the best stats you can find for the 2K League. Josiah and I use their numbers all the time in our articles. Their site is better than the league's own website if you're looking for stats.
So true. Oh my goodness, it's so true.
That's 2kanalytics.com. I had the pleasure of meeting the 2KA guys at the 2K League Finals, and they are all great dudes. So today we're going to be talking a bit about them, their website, and we're even going to get an inside look from Eli here at what an NBA 2K League war room is like. So without any further lengthy intros, Eli, we kind of want to know the background of 2KA. So how did you and Connor and Max know each other?
So we've all known each other since middle school. And then Connor and I roomed together in college. So, we've all been like best friends since, 6th, 7th grade. And Connor and I, we all played like NBA 2K growing up, but Connor and I really started trying to play competitively in like 2K16. And so this kind of whole thing just kind of started back then, competitive 2K, before the league was even announced. And I think what happened was I was like just scrolling on Twitter and Island Gang was like, hey, we're looking for 2 people to run tonight. So Connor and I joined them, played for a little bit, and we just became like instantly addicted to like competitive 2K. So that's kind of how we got into the competitive side. But then when the league was announced, we were like, okay, we're obviously not good enough to be players. How can we, get in on this? So we knew that like in terms of like box scores, the 2K itself didn't have great stats. And we figured that that's the stats that they were going to be using for the league. So what we did was like, okay, well, if we, hand track some other stats, we can drill it down to possession data, and bring meaningful insights to the league. And hopefully the league won't be doing that themselves. We kind of lucked out and they didn't do that. And, we started it just kind of as a side project, but now we're taking it pretty seriously.
To start an analytics company, I'm assuming you have to have a background in stats and math and things like that. Is that what you all studied?
Yeah, so I studied marketing analytics at school, so kind of like business analytics, boring stuff in that. And Max was like a finance major, and Connor didn't really study analytics at school, but I brought them on, and we've all kind of like found our role within everything we're doing, so it's worked out great.
Yeah, so who's the stats guy? Who's like the guy who's like really good at math?
I would say that I guess I'm the self-proclaimed math guy. I handled our system that we had for season 1 wasn't too complicated. It was actually mostly just like hand entering in like box scores into a database, and then it was just basically all just summed together or averaged out. But during the off season, we've been kind of working on other stuff to get it more automated almost. So that has been the big project of the off season and why we haven't been very active on Twitter. And our site is currently going through some upgrades. So I know I gave Josiah the whole offline database for use, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a giant countdown on your website right now. Can you tell us anything about what that's about, what we can expect?
We've been working like behind the scenes on some projects that we're not ready to announce yet, just because we don't know if they're actually going to be able to. We don't know if we're going to be able to do what we want to do yet, so we don't really want to announce anything. But if everything goes to plan, there's going to be. We're hoping that there's going to be just like major improvements in terms of like stat breakdowns and everything for the website for the league, because I mean, like you said in the intro, I know that we noticed that like on the league side, it's tough to navigate
Yeah.
to everything on the site and the stats. So, we want to kind of be the hub for everything in that regards for the league.
Yeah. Not only that, the league stats on the website aren't accurate,
Yep.
which seems to be like the number one thing you would want to do if you're gathering stats. But I'm not the stats guy, I guess.
Yeah, so I don't know their exact process. I think they actually have people enter it in after the games, because we've noticed like a couple of times, like I've gone back and just check box scores, and like like the field goals made doesn't equal their points made, or like everything doesn't add up right. So I think
Yeah.
that some people might just either fat finger some numbers in, and I know that we've actually, I can't remember what team it was. I think it was the Bucks. One of their games like lagged out during the game, or like glitched out, so they had to restart the game, and they sent us like a box score mid game, and they're like, "Hey, here are the stats. Can you hand track the rest of the game?" So we went back and like hand tracked assists and all that stuff, which like a half of basketball, like hand tracking assists and everything. It took like an hour and a half afterwards.
Yeah. So, uh, speaking of teams contacting you, has there been any interest in the past from teams trying to bring you guys on as, doing some sort of advanced analytics or anything like that?
Not We didn't really get a lot of stuff during the season. After the season, we got a couple um, of things from teams that were like, "Hey, like they wanted to like use like the database like for retaining their players, or evaluating how they wanted to retain their players." And we kind of held out on basically just giving it out. We kind of wanted to use it as leverage almost to get in with a team and actually, help them. So
Smart.
yeah, there was some interest, but we ended up not giving it out to anybody except for we used it with the Wolves.
Right. So the Wolves actually used your services for the expansion draft back in September. When did you get that call from them?
So it was actually kind of like a funny story how we got into contact with them. I think we went to two tournaments during the season. We went to the ticket or the turn, I can't remember. And then we went to the finals. Obviously, saw the Dimer guys. Great conversations. So the week of the finals, those four teams were announced, and the Wolves were one of them. And we're like, oh my god, what if they're out in New York? Like that'd be crazy. So we get off the plane and we're going to the studio, and like I don't know how we found it, but I think I was ended up scrolling through like Brendan Donahue's likes, and I found that one of like the Timberwolves like sales reps like was like just landed in New York City, and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna be at the studio. And so we ended up sitting down, and we're kind of like just looking around, and these like three Timberwolves employees, one of them had a Wolves polo on, which
Yeah.
was obviously easy to spot. They sat right behind us, and we all just kind of like looked at each other, and we were kind of nervous. And then Jeff Eisenband came up and like was like, "Oh my God, love your stuff." Took a picture with us, and we were like, "Okay, we have to turn around now." So Max comes from a sales background, so he turns around, he goes, "Hey guys, like, are you from the Timberwolves?" And they're like, "Yep." And we all introduce ourselves. Like they were asking us like during the game about like the 2K league, because they were like, signed their contract in, but I still think that they were a little, they've never been to the studio or anything. That's a new space. And so we just kind of kept in contact with them back in Minneapolis. And then we were just like, "Hey, if you guys need our help, we have all this stuff. We'd love to help you." And then from there, we worked with them from basically September to, well, until Max got his job.
Yeah. So you all three of you are from Minnesota.
Yep.
Yeah, born and raised.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're the hometown team. And was it a little more? Obviously, it's nice to work for any team in the league. Was it a little more special to work for your favorite NBA team?
Yeah, and those the people at the Wolves were just awesome. They were so nice and like they like weren't, um like stuck in their ways. They were really open to like new ideas, with like even with like how we got the hood trade. Like they were really open to like letting us almost drive the conversation and help us like teach them about the league. But yeah, helping our hometown team from the Wolves, it was like a dream come true.
Now, you weren't the only people in that war room during the expansion draft. There were a couple other people in there, weren't there?
Yeah, there was the like the chief strategy officer, the project manager, us three from 2K Analytics. Um, they brought on their own like stat guy, so he
Yeah.
had a ton of stats, like just bouncing stuff, and then they had I don't know if I said it, the like vice president of technology. So I think there was like 6 or 7 of us in there.
Yeah, so like were there any like intense conversations or like discussions about what you guys want to do or like arguments over any of the decisions that were made?
Yeah, I mean we had um, one. We all brought on our own, like everyone kind of made their own big board. Oh, that's right. There was one other person, like a local media, like a local radio show guy came on, and
Yeah.
he followed the 2K league, but
Yeah.
he was there as well. But we all kind of made our big boards, and then we kind of like hashed it out, and we this was kind of funny, but we made like basically like a presentation of like the top our like top 12, 15 players and like pros and cons of everyone. And then we kind of use that to like generate a list of about, all right, we know this guy's probably going to go here. So we narrowed it down to like top our 5 guys that we knew that were going to be on the board at each pick.
So you took a very methodical approach to this then, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, we wrote pros and cons for each of like the top 12 players. In probably, it was like 4, like, 3 sentence bullets on each point. And then from there, yeah, narrowed it down like based on like stats, what we saw, like personality wise, just like from what we heard from, people around the league, just kind of everything, tried to like keep it, you know, not just stats focused, but like good teammate. Cause the Wolves really wanted to bring on someone, good chemistry, good teammates, willing to, do something for the team.
Right. So like did the three of you each come up with your own thing or did you like kind of pull your stuff together into one big board?
The 3 of us came up with our own, but they were fairly similar. And then on the ones like we disagreed upon, like it ended up not mattering because like we were like, okay, like one of the players we were had big arguments about was like Nate Call, and we're like, okay, we know Nate's gonna go 2, so it doesn't even matter.
Right. So and then what did you do? Did you like kind of present your stuff like it was a sales pitch to the people in the room about why they should be drafted?
A little bit. The 2 guys that came in, the one who was working for the Wolves, he followed the league pretty well, so he kind of knew a lot about the players. And the Aaron Groshong, who works at Dash Radio, he was familiar with the league. So we kind of all, it wasn't really much of a sales pitch. We were able all to kind of like, just tell our opinions and, generate a list.
Yeah. So who came up with the idea? Now you guys of course made the big mid-draft trade. You
Yep.
selected Larry and
Mhm.
traded him to Cleveland for Hood. Who came up with that idea?
I believe that was initiated from the Cavs side. I think so. What happened that day was Max got to the office first, and then Connor and I showed up, and they're like, "There's a trade on the table, like Hood for the 3rd pick." They're like, "Should we do it?" And we're like, "Yes, you definitely should do that
Right.
because Hood is like one of the most efficient scorers in the league. Like he was probably one of the best players last year." So I don't know exactly the origins of like if it was Wolves initiated, if it was Cavs initiated, but um, we definitely told them to take that opportunity.
So like how soon did you get into the office before the draft even started?
So I think the draft was at 4 Central or 5 Eastern, and I think we were there 2 hours before.
Okay, so this was kind of set in motion uh, before anything happened. You weren't like frantically scrambling, like
Nope,
on the phone with Cleveland or anything.
nope. It was, I know the guy who was actually making the picks. He was like on the phone with the Cavs, like, so it was all set in stone by like an hour before that we were going to trade they were going to trade the third pick for Hood.
And were they were? I'm assuming the Cavs knew that uh, Nate and shots would go first
Yep.
and second, so they had Larry. They wanted Larry from the very beginning.
Yep, they gave us a list of 5 people, or like their top 3 people, just in case. But I think Larry was number 1.
Wow. Okay. So your next pick in that draft was Feast at 6th in the expansion draft,
Yep.
which is, I mean, you had to assume that you got your scorer now in Hood. Pairing him up with a lockdown defender like Feast was probably a good move. Was that the thought process?
Yeah, we really wanted to pair like Hood with like someone who can just, the word is thrown out all around the 2K community, but was truly versatile.
Yeah.
He really showed that he could play basically any position. And I think going back, now I would personally say that of the like retained player pool, that Feast probably could have been the number 1 pick, just the way he's been playing this year.
Right.
And just like during the season, like he did so much, he always played defense on the slashing shot creator, the shot creating slasher, and small forward. He, moved around from, 2, 3, 4. And just like he was like one of those players that his stats really didn't pop out, but he played every position so well and just kind of gelled with the team. And they were like one of the best teams on paper in terms of like net rating. So he was like a guy that we knew we wanted.
Yeah. So when it came to the 6th pick and he was still on the board, was it an easy decision then?
Yeah, I think Feast ended up being number like 4 on our or number 3 on our overall board. So he was like by far, and I think through some leaks from a 2K League source that we knew that the Lakers were going to pick Vert and Control.
Feast was the best value pick of the expansion draft.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
So what was the backup plan if Feast was taken?
The backup plan, to be honest, we didn't really have a backup plan. It was, I mean, we had like our list of guys, but we're like, okay, we're like 99.9% sure Feast is going to be there. So we took him. But I think if not, we would have probably gone with, we had, a lot of the centers, but we kind of like discounted the centers a little bit just because like of the mashing last year and like coming into 2K19. Like,
Right.
How was that going to affect? And I guess this was another point, is that, this was like really early on in the game. It was like the game was out for, I don't know, 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something. So it was like we didn't really know how the game was going to play. And it was like, okay, well, centers are bad in this game, or inside scoring is bad. And last year in the league, you could just dunk over everybody. So we kind of discounted centers a little bit. But, who we were going to take, it was, we would have maybe been scrambling a little bit.
Yeah, different meta, obviously, because you mentioned the mashing, and in 2K19, it's not like that at all. The paint scoring isn't near what it was, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I want to say the Wolves were the only team to not draft like a pure center. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but
I think that's, well, I mean, I guess Shockey played center. He played like 4 or 5 games. So
Depends on Moody. Depends how you categorize Moody.
oh yeah, that's right.
True. But was that a strategy then going into this? Like you were gonna try to stay away from those centers?
I wouldn't say it was a strategy. It was just something like we're gonna try to maybe avoid like players who just played center last year. There's nothing like against them. Like obviously, like Vert, Moody, Arsenal, Shockey, they all performed really well in the league. I guess Spurt wasn't taken in the expansion draft, but Moody, Shockey, and Arsenal, they all played really well, but it was just like something that was like we were a little nervous. Like we didn't want to just have someone like plugged in at center, using that high value pick on a position that we don't know how it's going to be that effective in the league this year.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty fair. Now, we mentioned it before in the intro that Max was recently brought onto the T-Wolves as the team manager. What was that like, seeing a guy you've known for so long and who you've been doing all this with the site and everything get his opportunity with the local team?
I mean, it was awesome. Like seeing that, like when they put that job posting on, I was like, Max, like you need to do this. Like we've been here from the start. You're the local guy. You are perfect for this role. And he was like kind of, nervous about it, like switching career paths, going into kind of this untamed waters or unknown future. But
right,
he just seeing him like go through like the multiple rounds of like interviews and just kind of the relationship that he's formed with the Wolves, it's been awesome. And I know that he's going to kill it.
Yeah. So what's the plan for you and Connor now? Are you just going to kind of go with the site, see where it takes you, or are you going to kind of try to actively put yourselves out there and make yourselves available for 2K League roles?
I think so. This is, something we're kind of playing by ear right now. I know, I really like what we're doing with the site and the future of the site. So I think like no matter what, I'm going to try to stay kind of on the site side. I know, I don't want to speak for Connor, but I think that he's really interested in like the 2K League side of things. Breaking down film, using stats, and like for coaching and game planning. So I know that he would make like a really good coach in the league. So I think that he's probably going to try to do something like that eventually. But right now we actually, with Max Left, we brought someone else on as kind of like our, not really like involved in like 2K, but more of like on like the web development side of things and the, database side of things. So, we're really going after the stats this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's not much room right now in the league for people devoted entirely to stats or anything like that. But do you think that sometime in the future there could be more openings for things like that?
I mean, we'll see. I think that right now it's going to be like if you're looking to just get on a team as like an stat analyst or like a game film analyst, like it's going to be hard because teams like their budgets just aren't that big, and their budgets are probably locked in at the beginning of the year. So it's like they don't have a lot of wiggle room to break budgets. So it's like if you want to get into that space, you kind of have to go in and really make yourself known and present. And I would say that you have to really do something different and unique and try to bring something to the community that can start discussions.
Yeah, now that could change because I remember at the finals when there was that giant media scrum.
Yep.
I believe it was with Donahue in the middle of it. You were asking, I think it was Max actually, who was asking some very like technical questions about like the data within the game and like API data or something like that. So like what could you do? What's like the full potential of what 2K Analytics could do if you had like access to every bit of data that like an NBA team has? Could you be like doing the same stuff that they're doing, like tracking player positions on the floor and things like that?
I think that if we had like the full like game API breakdown, which would basically take a ton of workload off of us, like obviously hand tracking everything, we would be able to probably create I don't know, like a synergy sports type system where it's like play tracking and like isolation versus spot ups versus post ups, like points per possession, like that, which would really I think would help the game and hopefully like make teams like better at the game or just kind of further the game along.
Plays? What plays?
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. But sorry, dribbling left and right and stiff arms.
So like you could basically track almost anything. If where does that start? Does it have to do with 2K actually making that kind of data available?
I'd say like obviously that would be like a huge like thing for us and everyone. But I think that what we have planned tentatively for this year, I think that we will see like on our side like a big step in like stats gathered and like how we're going to present the information because truthfully last year we just kind of had like data tables on this static website page. Like it wasn't the information I thought was good, but like the presentation was not that great. So we're really trying to up that where it's just more digestible for everyone and hopefully get more people, involved, excited about like stats and insights in the league.
Yeah. So you guys did like basic stats. I want to say you also did stuff that was like pace adjusted, maybe. What else were you guys doing with the stats?
So we had pace, and then we also had like we got drilled it down to points per possession, which was just off of like a basic NBA formula through you needed offensive rebounds through it. So we would track offensive rebounds to drill it down to possessions per game, which then got us down to, points per possession or possessions and defensive points per possession and all that. Just, we wanted to see, basic, just pace adjusted stats.
Yeah. So do you have any plans to do a bit more with that or expand what you're going to be able to offer?
Yeah, I think that we're going to try, that's going to be like our baseline. And then I think we're going to try to, get into like maybe archetype insights, see if, there was a little bit of that last year, but, towards the end, like everyone was just playing the same thing basically.
Yeah.
See if there's anything with that. I think that we're going to maybe try, we did have shot charts, like I on the back end that we never released just because I didn't really like the way it was because I couldn't get exact XY coordinates, but I would bucket shots. So I had like 5,000 shots tracked by hand. And it was just
Wow.
like at a league level. It wasn't by team or anything.
Okay.
So, team shot tracking, player shot tracking is something that we are looking into and seeing if we can maybe do that this year.
So it's going to be a bit harder though now that Max is gone. So are you gonna? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to. Are you guys going to bring more people on to try and help you with that kind of by hand tracking?
Yeah, I mean, we're like always open to like bringing more people on. It's more of like, we're gonna bring someone on if they can add like value. We don't want just to have someone like come on and just do like one thing. And obviously, like with a site like this right now, we're obviously not making much or any money at all. So it's like we don't really have the budget either to pay someone to do this. So it might be a long summer, but we're excited.
We know the feeling. Trust us. We know the feeling.
Yeah.
There's not much money to be made in the league right now.
The sad truth.
Josiah, did you have any questions?
No, you know what? I think actually, you know what? I do have more questions because I'm very curious in terms of the exact workings of the War Room. I mean, we all knew that. I mean, we all thought we knew at least, and we were proved right that Shots and Nate would go 1 and 2. But what if Nate or Shots even had fallen to 3? I mean, you mentioned that you had the trade pretty much set, but what would have been your mindset at that moment, and would that have put the trade in doubt, or do you still think Hood was the right move even at the cost of Nate and Shots?
I think that no matter what, from at least personal opinions of everything, that the Hood trade still would have gone through. I think that everyone was pretty set on that happening for the third pick.
That's fair. Hood is certainly a a remarkable score.
Yes.
I have so many questions that I know you can't answer, but not because you're incapable of it, but because of NDAs and whatnot. But are you going to get a chance at least to maybe see the opening of the facility that the Timberwolves are promising, which looks amazing from the renderings? Is there, with Max on board, what are the odds yet that you're able to have, a heightened level of involvement with the Timberwolves during the season or as the offseason progresses?
Well, as someone who cannot break their NDA, I cannot speak on the facility, but I know that it is, the plans of it. I think I've seen I haven't actually seen like the actual like in-house blueprints, just of like what's been on your guys' website, and like Max won't even, obviously Max can't say anything to us or anything just because it's all confidential. But I'm hoping that it'll be amazing. I'm assuming that Max's like office will be in there, so hopefully he can like sneak me in after hours or something where I can get a tour.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah.
Anything else, Josiah?
That's it for me.
All right. Well, I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about, Eli?
Nothing. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up then. Eli, why don't you remind everyone where can they find you? Where can they find all of your content and analytics stuff and whatnot?
Yeah, if you go to www.2kanalytics.com, you will see a big countdown timer as of now, but in about a month or so, you will see, full NBA 2K League stats. You can keep up with that during the season. And you can follow me on Twitter at EliW2KA, shameless plug for everyone else, at Connor A2KA, and at Max Minsker, who is now the business manager of Timberwolves Gaming.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Josiah, where can they find you?
Mostly on www.dimer2k.com. Also on Twitter at Josiah Cohen 13.
Yep. And I'm Will Beverina. You can find me on Twitter at Will Beverina. And follow Dimer2K. Actually, just Dimer. Just follow Dimer at Dimer2K. And then Dimer2K.com. Anything you need to know about the league, any of the most breaking and latest news, you can find on the website.
Literally anything. Come to us first.
Come to us. No one gets it faster than us. Want to thank Eli for coming on the podcast with us. It was a lot of fun. Great insights into what goes down into an NBA 2K League war room. So I was very excited to hear about all that.
Yeah, and thank you guys for having me. I told Max I was coming on, and he said he wants to get on as well. So,
great.
Hopefully you guys can set that up.
Absolutely. We'd love that. So thanks again for listening, everybody. Support is always appreciated, and we will see you next time.